Now you may be asking me, what the hell is wrong with me? Well, I'll have you know there is a method to the madness. It's not a good method, but it's there. Now you see, I could have made a standard Rescue Ace deck list, but that's been done 1,000 times and it's pretty clear what Rescue Ace looks like. Instead, I wanted to experiment with the potential of Turbulence specifically as a sort of splashed monster that you can cheat out, basically running almost no other Rescue Ace monsters. And conveniently, Turbulence is a level 9, which lines up very well with some very good support, such as Generator and World Legacy Monstrosity. One of the strongest cards ever printed if you can get its effect off. And in this deck, you can definitely get its effect off and get some very powerful boards out of it. Well, what are the Rescue Aces? Now in this deck you can probably tell I'm not running a ton of them, but the ones I am running is Turbulence and one copy of Hydrant, which in my opinion are the most powerful ones. Turbulence is an incredibly strong card. It has no summoning restrictions, you can even tribute summon it if you want, but it does have a way to summon itself from the hand by banishing 2 Rescue Ace cards from your graveyard. Not a bad summoning effect and it can definitely come up, but the real appeal is its main effect. During your main phase, you can set up to 4 Rescue Ace, quick play spells, and or normal traps of different names directly from your deck. I'm sure you can tell that's a decent effect, and you can do this every single turn as long as you have Rescue Ace cards in the deck to set. Its next effect, and last one, is that if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can target one card in the field and destroy it. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. And this is an immensely strong card, and especially helped by how strong, at least very good, the Rescue Ace spell traps are. Now there's 2 normal traps and 2 quick play spells. Rescue lets you reborn a Rescue Ace. Alert allows you to add one from your graveyard in the hand, or if you control Hydrant, you can search one from the deck. Contain allows you to destroy, Extinguish allows you to destroy an effect monster. Contain lets you negate its effects. And if you control Hydrant, Contain prevents it being used as material, and Extinguish makes it so your opponent can activate that monster's effects if you control Hydrant. Now Hydrant is very strong, definitely better in an actual pure variant, but even in this deck it can't be targeted for attacks if you control another rescue, and you can once per turn activate a quick play spell card or trap card set by Rescue Ace card's effect to turn it to set, and during your main phase you can search a Rescue Ace monster from your deck. So these are all pretty strong cards, but what does the rest of this pile of cards do? Well, the rest of the deck is mostly focused on having different ways to get Turbulence out, and then back Turbulence up to, give a little more reinforcement and stop your opponent from just blowing you out of the water. Now, the first sort of little package I'm running is a package of Diviner the Herald and Trias Hierarchia. Now, this mostly serves to kind of give you a way to get a level 9 on the field for something like Monstrosity, but it also gets you access to some very strong cards like Entis and Elf. Because, for example, you can summon Diviner, dump Trias, summon from your deck, hit one of the 2 Heralds, and then you can, say, use Monstrosity, get at your level 9 stuff, and summon Elf. And on your opponent's turn, you can summon Diviner, dump Entis. Now you might be asking, what the hell are the Heralds for? Well, they're the targets to float off of from Diviner's effect. And while they're kind of garnets, they also have in-hand effects and you're running other fairies. For example, Lopter, part of the Generator package. And Generators are very strong. They are also level 9, which works very conveniently, but they also have a way to summon Turbulence from your hand. Because Dovelgus can summon a Generator or a machine from your hand. So, these are very good for doing pretty much anything the deck wants, and it gives the deck more interruption than the opponent's turn past just what Turbulence sets. And that's pretty much it for these sort of archetypal engines, but there's a very relevant generic card, World Legacy Monstrosity, which has 2 effects. You can either special summon 1 level 9 monster from your hand, or target 1 level 9 monster you control, special summon from your deck 2 level 9 monsters each with different original type and attributes from that face-up targeted monster, and have different names from each other, but they cannot attack and destroy them during end phase. So either you can just dump a Turbulence or something, or even a Mardell from your hand onto the field, or if you already control level 9, say a Trias, you can get something like Turbulence straight to the field along with a level 9, and you can go into rank 9, you can use Turbulence effect, all that good stuff. But say for example you summon Turbulence off of the second effect of Monstrosity, it'd be destroyed in the end phase, right? Well, you can just set Rescue to special summon Turbulence back, making Monstrosity one of the strongest cards in the deck. And we're running triple Prosperity mostly just to try and find it, because it really makes your boards good. As far as the more sort of generic cards, I'm also running 1 for 1, as it is a good way to summon Hydrant Sheet from the deck, which lets you search Turbulence and activate spell traps that you just set off of Turbulence's effect. I'm also running Called By and Imperm as just good stuff generic cards. They help kind of reinforce it, and Terraforming to help search boss stage so you can consistently get to your Generator cards. The extra deck is also pretty interesting. As said before, running 2 Entis and Elf because of Diviner, because Entis can either be sent off of Diviner's effect on your turn, or if you summon Diviner off of, say, Elf, on your opponent's turn to destroy cards. Elf is, well, you can summon off of something like a Herald or a Diviner, and you can bring them back, and you can use it for link material. I'm also running the Nightmares and Access code just for OTK purposes. Then, I'm running a plethora of rank 9s. In this case, 9 Lives Cat, Sacred Tree Beast Hyperion, Mirror Logic Aggregator, Dyson Sphere, Interblafnir, Earth Slicer. Now these are all pretty strong rank 9s, but they do have more utility than they may seem. For example, Aggregator lets you summon Pain Gainer and 7 Sins, and all of them are Xyz monsters, which means you can make Zeus, especially something like Dyson Sphere that can attack directly. So this gives the deck a ton of flexibility, and with a card like Monstrosity, it's not at all hard to summon a rank 9 even turn 1. Well, how about a real showcase of what this deck can do? This is a hand consisting of Diviner of the Herald, Monstrosity, Boss Stage, Boss Room, and Imperm, and this is probably one of the best hands you can possibly open in this deck. To start off with, we will go ahead and normal summon Diviner of the Herald, dumping from our deck Trias. We will then use Trias to summon itself, and then trigger Diviner's effect to summon from the deck a Herald, in this case Orange Light. Then, I will use Monstrosity's effect, targeting Trias, to summon straight from my deck, both a Dovellgus and a Turbulence. In this case I'm summoning Turbulence for obvious reasons, and Dovellgus because it's kind of the least useful generator, so I don't mind losing out of access it from the deck. Then, go ahead and use Turbulence's effect to set 4 spell traps straight from the deck. Then I can go ahead and link these 2 off for Elf. And then I can go ahead and make a rank 9, in this case Hyperion. And it's relevant because then I can activate Boss Stage and activate Hyperion's effect to equip a spell, so Hyperion can optionally negate a spell instead of just a monster. After all this resolves, I will set Boss Room and pass the opponent. Then in a draw phase, I activate Boss Stage, but I chain to it Rescue. This lets me summon from my grave the Rescue Ace Turbulence, and this is important because the Rescue Ace traps require that you control a Rescue Ace monster. So here I can go ahead and summon from my deck Har, and then summon 2 tokens. Then I activate Boss Room at Resolution just to stop any extra negation. So, what does this end board do? Well, I have the 2 Rescue Ace traps, so I have a Destruction and a Negation. And Hyperion can either negate a monster or a spell trap. Har is an Omni-Negate that can also rip a card out of the opponent's hand when they search, and Elf lets me summon Diviner so I can dump Entis. A very strong end board. And for an example of how this actually works out, because this is a strange looking end board, I can use something like Har to negate a card effect, then when they use another card, use Elf to summon Diviner from the grave, and use its effect to dump Entis to destroy a card in the field. After this, I still have Destruction and 2 negations left, along with Boss Room to stop them from responding to any of my cards. Now for a more kind of realistic average hand, this is one consisting of Utgarda, Monstrosity, Turbulence, Rescue, and Pot of Prosperity. In this case, I'll go ahead and lead with Prosperity, banishing 6 from the top of my deck, or extra deck, and then excavating, and adding Boss Room from my deck to my hand. Or Boss Stage, rather. Then I will use Monstrosity's effect to just go ahead and summon Turbulence from my hand. Then I can go ahead and set 4, activate Boss Stage, and pass. And just do kind of standard generator things. And this board isn't too bad either, even if it's not quite as flashy as the previous one. In this case, I have Har, along with all the Turbulence spell traps. And this is very hard to beat in a grind game, because Generator lets me summon level 9s every single turn, both with Boss Stage's effect and Lopter. Then we have Turbulence, which can set another wave of spell traps after this. And even once I run out of Rescue A spell traps, I can just use it as rank 9 fodder. So this is a pretty good end board, even with a sort of average hand. So how about an actual duel so you can see the deck in action? In this case I'm going second, which is definitely not the deck's strong suit, but you'll be able to see it can definitely go second through a couple interruptions at least. In this case my opponent is playing a pretty standard Dark Magician deck, and they will go through the normal kind of things. Now my hand is double Boss Stage, 1/4 Prosperity and Entis, or actually Diviner. Not exactly optimal for going second, but it can definitely work, especially when my opponent doesn't really put up much interruption on their turn. I draw Alert, then I go ahead and use Prosperity to dig for some more cards, in this case revealing 6, and from these revealed cards, I add another Diviner just so I can dump it off 1/1. I use Diviner's effect to dump Entis to destroy their circle, to prevent them getting a banish. They use Eternal Soul. After I use 1/1, and off 1/1, I use Hydrant's effect. They will use Dozen Rivals, but I chain Alert to search Turbulence anyways. So after they resolve all their effects, I go ahead and link into Sprite Elf. Now notably here, I could have summoned Turbulence, but I ended up not doing it. I kind of wanted to take it slow. But anyways, I summoned Elf, and I go ahead and summon from my grave Diviner. Anybody wondering why am I doing this? Well, you'll see on their turn, because once I pass over them, I use Boss Sage, but unfortunately they draw the Ash. But not all hope is lost. Now they will continue doing normal kind of Dark Magician things, searching a bunch of cards, activating Circle, using Soul to summon a Dark Magician, and then banishing my Boss Stage. They'll use Illusion of Chaos to search Souls, use Soul's effect, discard it, do summon another Dark Magician, make Eben, and summon another Dark Magician. But I then use Sprite Elf to summon another Diviner. But in this case, I'm not dumping Entis, I'm dumping Trius. Because if Trius, because it can be summoned on the opponent's turn by a quick effect, if it tributes 2 or more monsters, I get to non-targeting destroy a card on the field. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and destroy Eternal Soul, as this wipes their entire board. Then I can chain Diviner to just get another body on the board. Then in this case, they will get to trigger Dark Magicians, who summon 2 of these, but really it doesn't matter, I managed to basically stop their big push. Then when it passes over to me, I can go ahead and activate Boss Stage, which eats their quick low interruption because they have Circle. That's because they don't really know that I can summon Turbulence. So I go ahead and drop it on the field, and set for my deck 3 spell traps, and then make a rank 9. Now the reason why I did not keep Turbulence on the field is because I go ahead and make a rank 9 to blow up their board, then I can bring it back with Rescue. So my Rescue A spell traps are still active, but I get to wipe their entire board including Circle with Earth Slicer. Then I go ahead and just swing in, pass turn, and on their turn I go ahead and shotgun Rescue just to get Turbulence back on my field. Along with this I also have an Imperm, which is nice. They'll go ahead and use Souls, send it to the grave to summon Dark Magician, summon Magician Rod, but I negate it with Contain. Then when I see him pass their end phase, I go ahead and use Extinguish because I can replace it on the following turn. So I just use Effect, set 2, and then go to battle. Earth Slicer, I managed to steal the Dark Magician, so at least I have material in case they activate, let's say, another Eternal Soul, but in this case, the duel is pretty much over. So in conclusion, while this might not be the most practical or consistent Rescue Ace variant, there's definitely potential here. I believe Turbulence has a lot of potential in the future as just being put into decks generically, because he has no summoning restrictions and it's a machine, and it's not really that hard to get a machine on the field, along with being a level 9, which is a very nice level, and, you know, playing a couple Garnet spell traps doesn't hurt too bad for the payoff. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave any feedback you have in the comments, and subscribe if you want to see more in the future.